Welcome back everyone to the late night review, and tonight I'm talking about one of my very favorite horror movies of all time, and I think it is a classic and it's a hidden gem. And I'm talking about Body Parts with Jeff Fahey. This is a movie that I really like. I do have some nostalgia for it. I think it's a very, very good horror movie. If you like horror movies, I think you'll enjoy this movie. It's starring Jeff Fahey, and it was, get this, it was directed by Eric Red, and Eric Red wrote The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer. And he also directed Bad Moon, which was one of my favorite horror movies of all time, starring Michael Parr. Michael Parr was in Michael Parr, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Very good actor. He starred in Eddie and the Cruisers 1 and 2. I actually like part 2 better. Both good movies, but I like part 2. Eddie Lives better. He plays the werewolf in Bad Moon. So that was directed by Eric Red. And Eric, like I said, Eric Red wrote The Hitcher. He directed this movie that I'm talking about tonight, Body Parts. Very, very good movie. And this movie has been out for quite a few years, and I think it's a classic, but it's a hidden gem because I never really hear anyone talking about it. I don't see them talking about it that much. They do, but I think not a lot. So I do classify it as a hidden gem. I never see it really ranked much in horror movie rankings. It's really one of the best horror movies. It's fun, it's interesting, and it's called Body Parts. It's a hidden gem, so this is not a spoiler review. Almost all my videos are spoilers. They're spoiler reviews because they're movies that have been out for years and years and years, movies that I have nostalgia for mostly. This movie, it's been out for years, but not a lot of people, or at least not enough people, I don't think, have seen it. And so I'm not going to give the ending away. I'm not going to give too much away, but it's called Body Parts because it has to do with transplanting body parts that, people lost in accidents. They lost limbs in accidents. And so there's a procedure. There's a character in here, a doctor. Her name is Agatha Webb. And it's a catchy name. She's quite a character in here. And she has a procedure where they transplant legs, arms, body parts that have been lost in tragic accidents. Jeff Fahey loses his arm in a tragic accident. By the way, Brad Dourif is in here too. He was in Exorcist 3. He played the Gemini killer. I always remember, I grew up watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Great, great movie. Sad as heck though, really a sad drama. Funny parts as well. But I would always remember Brad Dourif is playing Billy. Billy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Very sympathetic characters, very sad movie, very classic with Jack Nicholson. But Brad Dourif is a painter in here. He's an artist. And he has a tragic accident as well. He loses his arm. Jeff Fahey loses his arm. There's another character who loses his legs. So they get transplants and things go wrong. And the only thing I'll say about it is it gets dark. It's fascinating and interesting. It explores the question, where does evil live? How does a person deal with it? Jeff Fahey goes through a lot of hell in here. After he has a transplant, everything seems to be going well. His arm is actually stronger than his old arm. He's stronger than he used to be in the new arm that he gets, but he starts having nightmares. And then, not to give too much of the movie, I'm definitely not going to give the ending away, but they got the body parts from a serial killer, and it affects them all. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. And it's a fascinating movie. There's a lot of questions being raised in the movie, like where does evil live? Like I already mentioned, Jeff Fahey befriends Brad Dourif's character. He talks to him about it and asks if he's had nightmares too. Have you noticed anything since you got the transplant? Talks to the guy who lost his legs. And the story builds from there. There's some mystery there, stuff going on behind the scenes. I won't give the ending away. And that's the premise of the movie, and it's a fascinating movie. It's not only one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's a classic. I think it's well directed. It's well done. I remember seeing Jeff Fahey in Psycho 3. That's one of the first times I saw Jeff Fahey. He's a good actor, does a good job here in Body Parts. He plays a family man, and in Psycho 3 didn't. Totally the opposite of a family man in there. uh, that was one of my favorite horror movies too, Psycho 3, directed by Anthony Perkins, and Anthony Perkins was great and as Norman Bates. Then I also saw Jeff Fahey in a movie with Clint Eastwood called, I think it was White Hunter, Black Heart. I think that was with, I think it might have been directed by Clint Eastwood, not sure. They were hunting in Africa, and Jeff Fahey, I remember seeing him in there. Lawnmower Man is probably his most famous movie that people remember him in, is The Lawnmower Man. One of my favorite films with, I'm trying to draw this video out. All the videos I make, I ad lib. I have no script. I do video editing, but I only do one take per video, except very rarely do I do a second or third take because I mess up, or so I do everything in one take. I kind of ad lib. It's all from the heart. I'm not acting at all. It just, so it's kind of, it's natural. I'm a kind of a casual YouTuber, so I'm not really, not too much is planned, but trying to draw this video out because it's a non-spoiler review. I don't want to give too much away. So, but yeah, Jeff Fahey, one of the best movies I've ever seen him in was Sketch Artist. And I don't know if you ever seen Sketch Artist. That was really, really a good movie. He played a sketch artist, and they're trying to find a killer, and it's fascinating. There's twists and turns. It's a good movie. Body Parts, though, I like even better. I like Body Parts even better. You have good suspense. You have good scares, pretty good scares in here. I've never really been scared by horror movies, even when I was a kid, except The Omen. That was the only, I talk about that sometimes. Maybe I should do a review of that. Definitely a review of that in the future. But that was the only movie that scared me as a kid. Even The Exorcist didn't scare me that much. It was the first three Omens, actually. All three of those movies scared me, but especially the first one. And of course, there's certain scenes in Nightmare on Elm Street, this franchise, and Friday the 13th franchise that scared me. Certain scenes in certain movies that got to me. Had a reoccurring nightmare because of Friday the 13th 4 and 3, I believe. I shared that in another video. If you want to see that reoccurring nightmare story, check out my Friday the 13th Part 4 movie review. But yeah, I mean, this Body Parts has got some decent scares in here. It's got some action. It's got a little action in here. There's some investigating that Jeff Fahey does, trying to research the history of the person he got the arm from, what the history was behind that person, and then there's a reveal there that I mentioned earlier. And it's a well done movie. I think it's a fun movie. If you're a horror fan, I think you'll like this movie, and you're in for a treat. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a movie that I had it rented for me from the video store. My friend watched it. I think he had a friend who told him about it because he had it rented for him from the video store too. So everyone I talked to liked this movie. Everyone who's seen it after they saw it, they ended up liking it. And Jeff Fahey's character has some depth to him, and he's got his own deep thought. The movie explores a lot, and I appreciate this movie because it does ask some questions about evil and what makes a person do this or that. Where does evil live? Where does that influence come from? So it's got some memorable scenes in here. It's got a pretty good climactic um, final segment of scenes, group of scenes that are really satisfying. It ends well. I won't give the ending away. But when I say it ends well, I'm not talking about a happy ending, and I'm not talking about a sad ending. I'm just talking about it's done well. You go through certain movies where you don't like the ending. Um, you have movies where you like the ending because it's a happy ending, but you also have movies where you like the ending when it's not a happy ending, like The Thing, directed by John Carpenter. Great movie, and it ends kind of in a very nihilistic unresolved way, but it's perfect. It was really good for that movie. So there's happy endings and sad endings that work. There's happy endings and there's nihilistic endings. There's unresolved endings that work. And this movie has a well done ending. I won't say whether it's happy or sad or tragic, but it's done well. There's a movie called The Star Chamber that I loved with Michael Douglas, but I don't like the ending. I do not like the ending, and I've never given that ending away on my show because I don't think enough people have watched The Star Chamber. That's a great movie I recommend. But Body Parts is a very good horror movie. I like it. It's a classic to me. I think it's great. If you haven't seen it, it's starring Jeff Fahey, like I said already. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you're a horror fan. And it's not just horror though. It's got some mystery to it. It's got a good story too, and it's well acted. Brad Dourif does a really good job acting in here. Jeff Fahey does too. I think everybody does a good acting job in here. Brad Dourif probably, edges everyone out just a little bit because he's such a great actor. But I like the cast in here. Fahey does great, and all of them do a good job. So check it out. This has been the Late Night Review. Please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and share this video so other people can see the content. And have a good night, everybody.